So it went 30, call, I have ace-king offsuit, this guy makes it 150, and I just jam here, and he folds pretty quickly, so obviously he didn't have some sort of calling hand. This is the type of play that you can say is a semi-bluff here, because if he's got like 9s or 10s, you want that hand to obviously fold. I don't think we're really getting called off here that much by like ace-queen. It would be nice if you had ace-queen suited and made some sort of hero call, but jamming here with ace-king is somewhat like a semi-bluff. Like you're trying to get the pairs that have like flipping equity, where you're a little bit behind, to actually fold, and there's $350 in dead money out there if you count my open and the dead money. So
all right, cruising on in, listening to the Crush Live Poker Podcast with Bart Hansen. You can always get it for 25% off, not just for the rest of the year, for life, just by going through the link in the description below. It is good to be back. Obviously, we had to wonder, when would the week come when I just absolutely ran like God? Well, we had it last week, ultimately winning about $6,000 for the week. I wish I could say that dug me out of the hole for the year, but it doesn't. A couple more though, and we'll be there. So, let's see what's going on today. It looks like there is not a 5-10 list. And you might think I dislike that. I actually like that. There's a 3-5 list, which might actually end up being the game. Because let's just be honest, it is kind of ridiculous to just have 1-2 games and a 5-10 game here in a place like Reno on every given morning. It really should be 3-5 that they start, along with the 1-2 game. So, and then start a 5-10 game later on Friday and Saturday, or whatever the case is. That's how it should be. The opposite has been what's been happening. Will it actually change? I don't know. Today it might. And let's get in there, and regardless of what stakes we're playing, let's keep this winning streak rolling. The 325th running of this vlog would come your way from Peppermill, Reno, a place that recently cut the size of its menswear store in half to create more slot machine space, but you can still get a Heisenberg hat inside of it. A place whose steakhouse I recently visited for Anna's birthday and ordered at my dad's recommendation a tomahawk steak. And a place that, well, indeed did have a 5-10 game. And I got the last seat in it just before noon. But more on that 5-10, 3-5 topic I was talking about coming up. I'd begin tracking my session on the Left Pocket app, an app that prioritizes the mental game of poker, which I would assume means Jared Tendler would use it. Anyway, scan that QR code to find out more and to get a free month. The game was slow starting out. I would even get an intentional walk in the big blind when I had aces, a feeling that is worse than losing. I don't care what anybody says. The only hand I would get involved in during the first hour was when I would raise pocket eights under the gun and c-bet an ace-4-4 flop into 3 opponents. That bet would get called, but I would still win at showdown after checking the later streets. We'd get an under the gun limp from the only guy in the game I don't know, and an overlimp from the low jack. I have 4-5 of diamonds in the cutoff, and I simply overlimp as well, because limping is pimping. Blinds check, and with 50 in, the flop comes out king 6-3 rainbow with 1 diamond, giving me an open ender. Gets checked to me, and I go ahead and bet out with it for about half pot. Blinds fold, and under the gun, calls. So, with 100 in, the turn is the 7 of clubs, giving me the straight. Under the gun checks, and I'm certainly going to bet here, obviously, with the nuts at the moment. I make it 65, obviously wanting action, and he doesn't take too long before check calling. So with 230 in the pot, the river is the 10 of clubs. He checks once more. Clearly still a value bet here. I make it 100, knowing all of his 2-pair hands, and even some of his top pair hands, will likely be happy to pay this off. He thinks about it for a minute before check raising to 300. Anyone else in this game, I would pretty much instantly lay this hand down to, but this is an unknown guy, and he has been in a lot of pots lately. And how many hands that contain clubs, by the way, check call the flop? I've also just lost a lot of hands this year where I folded in spots like this and the guy was just barreling off with 2-pair in a spot that he didn't realize he wasn't good. So with all that in mind, I just wasn't sure that I could safely fold this hand to this guy. But I would wish I had. as I would toss in the call, creating an $830 pot, and he would show ace queen of clubs for the nuts. I know, not a shock. You get a check raise on the river. You should be expecting the nuts a lot of the time. I would make the wrong decision to call it. Though his decision to limp in pre-flop and then call the flop when hitting nothing, not the way I would have done it personally, but to each their own. It was pretty funny. I would then hear the guy next to him whisper in his ear about this hand being on a vlog. It's always funny when guys try to talk about you and think you can't hear them, but you can hear them. Anyway, so stuck a few hundred on the day. I would then get dealt ace 10 of diamonds in the hijack and would end up playing a three-way pot out of position, which I must say I didn't expect. So with 100 in, the flop is 9-3-4 with 2 diamonds. I bet out, and bet out pretty big, making it 3/4 of the pot. And to my surprise, both guys call. So we gotta hope for a diamond on the turn, and with 325 in, we'd get one with the 5 peeling off. Now I feel the need to remind the game that I too am capable of check raising with a big hand in this spot, so I go for it. Cutoff doesn't bite, but the button does. He fires 125. I check raise it to 325 here. Cutoff folds immediately, and the button also mucks his hands, saying to his neighbor, bad time to bluff. Not if you ask me, sir. I just think you should have bluffed more. I would then see Adam Schefter post about how it looks like Mac Jones will likely go against the Bucks for my 49ers. And I know this will come out after that game, but I am editing it beforehand. And I feel compelled to point out that I don't know that Mac Jones is actually better than Brock Purdy, but I feel confident that Brock Purdy loses that Thursday night game to the Rams with that supporting cast 10 out of 10 times. And I continue to believe that Purdy has been made to look good by the talent and coaching around him, and that big contract will be looked at as a mistake. We get 2 OMC limps, and I have a premium holding 9 deuce of hearts. Do I have to tell you what position I'm in? I would hope not. And with 50 in, the flop would come out king 10-8 all hearts. I bet right out with my flopped flush for 40. And only one of these guys calls. In this case, it's the under the gun 1 limper. So with 190 in, the turn is an offsuit 9. I bet 100 this time. And once again, +1 is going to make this call. So with 390 in, the river pairs the board with the 10. Looking to get paid off by top pair. I figured this would still be a good spot for a value bet, so I put in 150. This is not a guy that anyone would confuse for a loose player. And he then announces 500. And that's just very unfortunate. I suppose it's possible that he could have just missed the nut flush draw here, but I don't think he would try to do this on a paired board. So I just feel that I'm going to be beat here the majority of the time, either with a bigger flush or a full house. And I could certainly understand why he would slow play it when I'm betting into him like this. So I just fold the hand. And while I'm not sure if I made the right fold or not, I am sure that I don't think I'd seen an opponent happier to beat me out of a hand in my entire life. This is an unsolicited and unrelated mid-session opinion. Am I the only one that credits the NHL for being the only of the 4 major sports in America to not recently expand its playoff system and extremely water it down? Baseball was better with 4 teams in each league getting in. The NBA was better before the play-in game fiasco. And football now has a 7th seed that never has any chance to make a deep run. I can expand on these opinions, but we simply do not have time. I would lose 2 more small pots, and the game wasn't exactly getting any better. I would then make the mistake of not 3-betting pocket 10s in a spot where I would end up calling a flop bet in a spot that was kind of close. I would lose a couple $100 in the pot, but I was just so frustrated with myself because if I'm going to make a mistake in a spot like that, I should make it by being too aggressive, not by being too passive, and at that point, it cost me. Though I would feel better thinking about the game to come on that given night with my Golden Knights in San Jose. In their first 8 seasons in the NHL, the Golden Knights are 27-2-5 against the Sharks. 27-2. That has to be one of the most dominant stretches against a division rival in the history of sports, especially in a salary cap sport. That is incredible. I didn't have much of a plan for this next hand until we got to the turn, but I would get a chance to implement one. With 5 players dealt into the hand, we'd get a $30 raise from the cutoff, and I have 5 7 of hearts on the button and make the call. Big blind completes, so with 95 in, the flop is Jack 6-6 rainbow, and no one bets. The turn is the 8 of clubs, giving me an open-ender and putting out 4 to a club flush, which I did think about. Cutoff bets out for 45, and I make this call with the big blind folding. So with 180 in, the river is the 3 of clubs, leaving me with 7 high. But he does check. It is certainly a must bluff spot, and I gotta say, pretty good spot to represent clubs against a pre-flop raiser who checked the flop and might have been trying to get thin value on the turn. I bet 110, and he thinks about it for only a few seconds and mucks. The game would fizzle out at that point. Eric Nelson, the best floor guy we have, comes over and says we have 2 people that'll play 3-5. So, sure enough, the game converts to a 3-5. And after being basically on life support as a 5-10 at 4 p.m., the game was basically full as a 3-5 at 6 p.m. Now, I'd already decided I was leaving at that point, but I continue to think maybe it would actually be better for the game long term if we just made it a $5 blind game, because there are plenty of guys that'll play that won't play 5-10. But what do I know? All right, so about a 6-hour session in the books. That's about as long as I've been hoping to play these sessions. And as I mentioned, the game just kind of fizzled out before becoming a 3-5, which wasn't the best 3-5, but I wanted to wrap the session up anyway. Anyway, had a couple of river spots that I would like to do over again, and just did not have very many big hands all day long. Not a surprise, considering I got hit over the head by the deck last week, but would have liked to have not had an intentional walk. The only time on the day I had pocket aces, never had kings, never had queens, never had jacks, and I misplayed the 10s that I had, as I mentioned. Ultimately a $477 loss, but I intend to win that money back tomorrow. All right, a couple of things here. First of all, I know some of you didn't even realize that the open to last week's vlog was the completion of a trilogy. Now, I'm sure most of you did, but vlog 207, vlog 290, and now vlog 324 make up the trilogy of the running bits. And I know, like a lot of trilogies, in this case, the third one was probably the worst one. That actually got me into thinking, like, man, there's not many movie trilogies where the third movie is the best movie, right? Like, that does not happen. You could argue Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, is the best of those 3. But in my mind, the only 2 where it's definitively the case are the Star Wars prequel trilogy with Revenge of the Sith and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Those are the only times I could think of where the third movie is the best. I know this one was not the case, but it was still fun to do. First doing it locally, then doing it in Vegas, then doing it internationally. But anyway, I only played 2 sessions of poker this week. You saw one of them. The other one did not go well for me either. It was one of those where I only had like 4 hours to play. And I would drive to the casino and I'm just telling myself, I am not going to bluff. I am going to play tight, super solid poker. All of a sudden, I find myself in the middle of a big bluff. And of course, I lose that pot. And seemingly every other pot that I would play on the day, ultimately losing about 2,000 total for the week after winning just under 6,000 last week. So I was hoping I would turn this thing around in a hurry. Not going to be the case, but I do have reason to believe that the rest of October is going to have potential to be very good. So stick with us. If you haven't already, hit those like and subscribe buttons. It's great for this channel, and I genuinely appreciate it. Also, follow along on Instagram at bendeach. I intend to be working on some shorts. It was funny, my son, who's now 5 years old, and by the way, in kindergarten now, which has been a lot of fun, we were pulling into the house the other day, and he's like, Daddy, don't close the garage when you go in there. And I'm like, why not? And he goes, there's a package on the door. He's becoming more and more observant. And that package actually contained this. I bought one of these. I'm going to try to use this, put it in the cup holder at the Peppermill, and actually record some vertical video to make shorts on. It's really a work in progress for me, learning how to edit 9:16 video as opposed to 16:9 video. I have a couple up there already. I intend to continue to make more to try to get involved in the shorts game as well as the traditional vlog game. And speaking of vlogs, that's the end of this one.